Welcome to the Functional Esthetician Podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Dench. Today we're going to talk about what foods to eat and what foods to avoid for better skin. We will also talk about establishing healthy food habits and your mindset. Please enjoy. Does what we eat really impact our skin, or is that a myth? The phrase, "you are what you eat," is true. Food does impact the health of our skin. Over the last 5 to 10 years, more research has been done on the connection between the gut and the skin. I have experienced this in my own skin, and I've also had good success with clients as well. Acne clients who tend to address their skin issues from the inside out tend to have the best results when clearing their skin, and they're the ones that keep their skin clear. As I was researching food and the harmful effects it has on our body, I went down the rabbit hole of toxins in our air, food, and environment and how bad that is for our gut health. For today's purposes, we are going to focus on food, but I did link those studies in the show notes. So if you're interested, after this episode, make sure to go check those out. Let's talk about the top 3 foods that cause inflammation in the body and on your skin: gluten, dairy, and sugar. Gluten is a big one because everyone loves their carbs and it's really hard to give it up. Plus, gluten is in everything. And gluten sensitivity has become more and more of an issue. There are 2 reasons why. First, our body can't completely process gluten. Second, this causes intestinal permeability. This means microscopic tears in your gut microbiome. When this happens, inflammation occurs, and it results in bloating, gas, IBS-like symptoms, gut dysbiosis, and guess where else it shows up? Yup, you guessed it, on your skin. And many of you listening might be thinking, but I've always eaten gluten. Why all of a sudden is it so bad? And I have an answer for you. I'm going to talk about 2 reasons why gluten has become such an issue. I did mention that our bodies can't process gluten completely. Gluten has 2 protein components, gliadins and glutenin. Both of these proteins are not completely broken down in the stomach or pancreas. So it travels to our intestines, where the smaller particles penetrate the intestinal wall. These microscopic tears lead to inflammation in our gut. And this is where the term leaky gut comes from, because gluten literally causes microscopic tears in the gut and it leaks out into our body. In someone with celiac disease, these proteins trigger an autoimmune response. In healthy individuals, we get sluggish, we get moody, we feel bloated, we get IBS-like symptoms, headaches, and even shows up on our skin. Now, the other component I want to talk about when it comes to gluten is a chemical called glyphosate. Glyphosate is a chemical used in Roundup. Glyphosate is used to treat wheat, corn, soy, barley, and oats. It controls weeds and speeds up the drying process so they can be harvested quicker. And research has been done connecting the dots between our gut and glyphosate. While food companies claim that glyphosate is non-toxic to humans, studies are proving otherwise. Studies show that glyphosate disrupts and suppresses healthy gut bacteria, leading to dysbiosis. Glyphosate doesn't just affect our guts. It affects how our cells make energy. Back in science class, you learned about the mighty mitochondria. Mitochondria are the power source for our cells. Mitochondria are responsible for the production of ATP, which is how our cells get their energy. Dysfunction in the mitochondria leads to illness caused by oxidative stress. Hopefully, this information will inspire you to cut back on gluten. Because once you eliminate this food from your diet, you'll be surprised at how good you start to feel. Next, let's talk about dairy. The first thing I want to say about dairy is around the age of 5, all of us stop producing the enzymes to break down dairy. This is why most of us have digestive issues when it comes to consuming dairy. Everyone is lactose intolerant to some form. Think about how bloated and gassy you feel when you eat dairy. And if you really haven't paid attention, next time you eat it, I want you to stop and pay attention to your body. Your gut gets bloated and gassy because it doesn't have the enzymes to break down the dairy. And just like with gluten, when your gut can't fully digest something, it creates inflammation and it damages the intestinal wall. And inflammation affects our health, and it also shows up on the skin. Lastly, we're going to talk about sugar. We did cover sugar in our Halloween episode, so after this podcast, make sure to listen to that one next. Sugar causes a process in our body called glycation. Glycation breaks down the proteins in our body, creating inflammation and speeding up aging. On the skin, glycation shows up as premature wrinkles, crosshatch wrinkle patterns, dull or textured skin. If you think of orange peel skin, that's what glycated skin looks like, and acne. This brings me to my next point: sneaky, healthy foods that are in everything we eat. Sugar is hidden in most processed or prepackaged foods. We believe that consuming fruit smoothies, Greek yogurt, and protein bars are healthy. Unfortunately, they're all loaded with hidden sugar. And yes, sugar even comes in the form of fruit. If you're having issues with your health, body, or skin, I recommend cutting back on fruit too. Greek yogurt is loaded with sugar. And I know most of us are looking for the probiotics, but you have other alternatives instead. If you're looking for the probiotics, I recommend either raw dairy or kefir. Raw dairy is not as bad as it's claimed to be. Our dairy is highly processed. It has additives and has gone through extreme heat, so it actually kills the good stuff in dairy. Companies do this because they know it will preserve the dairy so it can sit on the shelves for months. Raw dairy can be bought from a local farmer, and when it's consumed right away, has incredible benefits to your gut. I did add a link in the show notes if you're interested in learning more about raw milk. It's a quick read and something I recommend checking out. The next harmful food that's in everything are seed oils. And after doing some research, seed oils do have high amounts of omega-6s. However, the way seed oils are processed, it depletes them of omega-6s. When the oils are extracted, it creates toxicity by adding in glyphosate and hexane extraction methods. Seed oils, just like sugar, is in almost every processed and packaged food. When you pair seed oils with other harmful and inflammatory ingredients, it negatively impacts our health and our skin. My best piece of advice on seed oils is to avoid them completely. Opt for avocado, coconut, or olive oils, beef tallow, or butter. Now that we've covered a lot, I want you to understand why, as an esthetician, treating acne, rosacea, eczema, or any inflammatory skin condition can be so difficult. There are so many factors that could be affecting the health of your body and showing up in your skin. When it comes to figuring out your skin problems, here's a little guide I like to use. And this is something you can implement at home. When you see an inflammatory response in your skin, pay attention to what you ate the 24 to 72 hours prior to that response. For some people, your skin will show it within the hour. Keep a food journal. Write down everything you eat in a day. And at the bottom of the page, make note of how your skin looks and feels. Was it clear? Did you have flare-ups? Where were your flare-ups? Do you notice acne or bumps on the skin? All of these signs could be pointing to your gut. Another thing you can do is you can try an elimination diet and see which foods are causing inflammation. Start with one of the inflammatory foods, gluten, dairy, or sugar, and eliminate it for 1 month. Here's what to look for. Your signs of bloating, gas, IBS-like symptoms, joint pain, and skin inflammation should start to ease up. You'll feel more energy and less sluggish, and you'll notice your mood improving. And always keep notes. Write down what you're eating, what you're eliminating, and how your body and skin responds. And if you've tried this or are trying it and are struggling to get answers, we can do some functional testing. We can check your gut for signs of inflammation and do some food sensitivity testing. Just remember, start slowly and be kind to yourself. Pay attention to how you do feel. And sometimes we don't even realize how bad we feel until we eliminate a certain food and we start to feel different. So let's get to the fun part. What foods you can eat for healthy skin. The first thing I'm going to say about diet and nutrition plans is that diet plans are personal. I'm here to share information with you, but I'm also encouraging you to do your own research and find which one works best for you. I'm going to start with this. One of the most important things you can eat for healthy skin is protein, especially fatty red meats. Red meat is a complete protein, which means you get all of your essential and non-essential amino acids in one meal. And when it comes to fat, good fat is essential for our body. Red meat contains short-chain fatty acids, which is good for your gut microbiome. The bacteria in your gut benefit because they are produced from amino acid metabolism. When you're eating carbs, sugar, or processed foods, this breaks down proteins in your body. And that's why eating red meat is so important. And I know there's so many studies out there telling us not to eat red meat and that red meat is bad and it causes heart problems and all these other issues. But I'm here to help you think critically. Let's think about what just came out about women in HRT. For all these years, women avoided HRT because they believed if they took it, they'd get cancer. And now we learned that that's not true and that HRT is safe for women. Let's look at the food industry and where we're getting our information from. And I'm getting fired up here because I've been on the carnivore diet for 2 years and I feel great. I have no health issues, no heart issues, no cholesterol issues, and my gut feels better than it ever has. I have always been an avid researcher. So when Clint introduced me to the carnivore diet, I started learning as much as I could. And one thing I learned is the importance of fatty red meat is key for our bodies. So why are we told red meat is bad? Our food industry is run and owned by big pharma. Why would they tell you to avoid foods that are good for you and push the foods that are bad for you? Because they know that if you continue to eat the bad foods, you're eventually going to get sick and need their medications. My job as a functional medicine practitioner is to educate you, help you understand what's causing all the inflammation and health problems, help you get healthy, avoid and minimize your amount of medication. Eating inflammatory foods damages your body and it makes you sick and puts you on medication. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to shift gears and talk about some of the different diet plans that are good for you. What does an anti-inflammatory diet look like and how can it help improve your gut so your skin clears up? The 4 main diet plans that I'm going to talk about today are the ketogenic diet, the Mediterranean diet, the autoimmune protocol, and carnivore. And how I learned about these diets are following different doctors on YouTube and social media. I will drop some of their links in the show notes if you want to do your own research and learn a little bit more about them. When it comes to diet plans, you have to be your own advocate. I'm encouraging you to try different ones and find which one works best for you and your lifestyle. Every body is different, and there's no one-size-fits-all diet plan. Let's compare the 4 different diet plans so you can start to figure out which one might work best for you. Starting with keto, also known as the ketogenic diet. The keto diet consists of proteins and fats with limited carbohydrates. And when I say carbohydrates, I don't mean bread, pasta, or gluten-free crackers. True keto diets get their carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables. The goal of the ketogenic diet is to use your body's own glucose from your liver instead of glucose from food. This puts you in a state of ketosis, And ketosis means you're using your body's own glucose source. This creates ATP, aka the energy of our cells. This leads to weight loss, improvement of health, and more energy. I did the keto diet for several years and really enjoyed it. However, the amount of keto-friendly foods did get the best of me. But overall, I feel like the keto diet is an easy one to follow because there's so many recipes online, so you can recreate foods you enjoy and you never feel deprived. Next is the Mediterranean diet, which got its name from the countries in the Mediterranean. This diet is composed of fish and poultry as your main protein, olive oil for fats, leafy green vegetables, seeds, nuts, and legumes. The biggest issue with this diet is the recommended amounts are not sustainable for every day. Here's the daily recommendations of a true Mediterranean diet. 3 to 9 servings of vegetables, 1/2 to 2 servings of fruit, up to 8 servings of olive oil, 1 to 13 servings of cereal. Europe does not allow glyphosate in their food, so their grains are different than here in the US. And minimal amounts of protein from fish or poultry. Now remember, in these countries, they take long breaks in the middle of their day, so they have time to prepare for big meals. They also eat from the land. And for the American lifestyle, our lives are busy, and this diet plan is hard to follow here. It's a good guide if you're just starting out. Next, let's talk about the autoimmune protocol diet, also known as AIP. This diet is a personalized elimination plan that eliminates any food that could potentially cause an inflammatory response. This diet is usually monitored by a functional medicine or naturopathic doctor. And we have talked about the negative effects inflammatory foods have on the body. The goal of this diet is to eliminate any potential allergen or food that can trigger inflammation in your body. There are 3 phases to the AIP diet. Phase 1 is elimination and can last from 6 weeks to 6 months. This phase is the most restrictive. You eliminate any food that could potentially cause an inflammatory response in your body. Phase 2 is reintroduction and typically lasts from 1 to 3 months. This is the phase where you slowly start to introduce foods back into your diet. If you don't have an inflammatory response, you can continue to eat that food. If you do have an inflammatory response, you know from now on to avoid that food. Phase 3 is maintenance, and this is your long-term nutrition plan. As long as you avoid those foods that cause inflammation, you will stay healthy. And the last diet plan is the carnivore diet. Carnivore means you eat beef, butter, salt, and eggs. It's pretty simple. However, some carnivores do consume dairy for extra fat. The concept behind the carnivore diet is to eat like the cavemen did. Many carnivores also do intermittent fasting and condense their meals into short windows throughout the day. Clint and I have been on the carnivore diet for 2 years now, and we really like the simplicity of it. It's actually pretty easy because all we're cooking is meat. Now for me, I like to eat 2 meals a day, breakfast and dinner. Even if my days are crazy and I skip breakfast, I only get hangry if I didn't eat enough protein the day prior. Now that you have all of this information, I do suggest you do your own research and start playing around with the different diet plans. It's good to start implementing these into your life and find out which ones work best for your lifestyle. The biggest takeaway I've had in school is that diet is personal. And it really should be because all of us are individuals. We all have our own health concerns. We all have our own needs for how we want to be healthy. And we all have different lifestyles, so you need to find a diet plan that works best for you. That's the only way to be sustainable and successful. Let's talk about sustainable, healthy habits. How often have you tried different diets only to fall off the wagon and go back to your old habits? I used to be that way too. When I was married, my ex always thought I was crazy for trying to eat well and take care of myself. I would even make 2 dinners because I wanted to eat well so I could stay thin and healthy. And because I didn't have the support, I was not consistent. And when it comes to eating well, consistency is key. And when you yo-yo and you eat healthy for a bit and then go back to your old habits, that's when damage happens and health problems can pop up. And it actually doesn't take your gut long to reset when you switch to healthy habits. Within 3 days, your gut begins to restore healthy bacteria. For long-lasting changes, you need to give your gut about 6 to 8 weeks. Think about how your gut's going to respond if you eat well for a while, fall off the wagon, and then switch gears and start eating healthy again. Your gut would not be happy. And the holiday season is upon us. And this is where most people do fall off track. And this negatively impacts your gut and your health. So how can you get started on a diet plan you can sustain year-round? It starts with the question, how bad do you want it? If you're not 100% serious about improving your health, you're never going to change. It's that simple. Humans don't like change, and we will resist it until something forces us to change. And unfortunately, for many people, it's a life-threatening illness that forces them to improve the way they eat. And I hope by telling you this, I'm inspiring you to take action before something drastic happens. There's a great book I read several years ago by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. Everything in your life, your decisions, your mission, your passion, it's all fueled by the question of why. So now I'm going to ask you, why do you want to be healthy? This is your starting point, and it's up to you to take control and live that mantra every day. For me, my why is my kids. Every decision, everything I do is about how is this going to impact my kids? And that is why I started my business, got divorced, moved my kids to the neighborhood we're in, and changed my eating habits. Sit with this thought and really think about, why do you want to make a change? I want today's episode to make you feel uncomfortable because comfort keeps you stuck and prevents you from making a change and taking action in your life. Another problem I see is we set our goals and expectations for ourselves way too high. This means we can never sustain our goals or meet our own expectations. And this is another reason why we can't stick to a diet plan. How often have you said, I'm going to lose 50 pounds? How well does that actually work? It doesn't, because it's not sustainable. Here's what is. Set a goal to lose 5 pounds. And when you lose that 5 pounds, do something nice for yourself, like go get your nails done or get a massage. That is a more attainable goal. And once you hit that 5-pound goal, set a new goal for another 5 pounds or maybe 10 pounds this time. And at that point, you likely will hit your goal because you're taking smaller steps to get to smaller goals that will ultimately lead you to a bigger goal. When I'm feeling super stressed and I feel like the world is crashing down on me, I will literally sit and think, if I can just get through this hour, I'll be okay. And then once I get through that hour, I think to myself, I gotta get through this next hour. And I keep doing that until I get through the day. And sometimes that's what it's gotta take to get from point A to point B. So you can apply this to your eating. Don't completely go cold turkey and switch over to a brand new diet plan because you know you're not going to be able to sustain it. Start by eliminating 1 or 2 inflammatory foods at a time. Find things that will help nourish you so you don't feel deprived, because deprivation prevents you from sticking to a diet plan. Easing into healthy meals will help you make better decisions and be able to sustain it for a lifetime. And just remember, healing takes time. And you will have times when you cheat or slip up because we're human, so don't beat yourself up. Just acknowledge you made a mistake and start fresh the next day. Slipping up or cheating isn't meant to make you feel bad. Just tell yourself, oops, I screwed up. Tomorrow's a new day and you can start fresh. If you would like some accountability with this, I am happy to help. You can always connect with me on social media for encouragement and for some accountability. And I hope this helps you feel like you can do this, because you can. It all starts with a mindset shift. I'd like to end today's episode with one small step you can start taking today. Grab a notebook and pen. Find a quiet spot to sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. I want you to think about all of your eating habits over the years. Which ones worked and which ones didn't? Grab your notebook and make 2 columns on a blank piece of paper. In the first column, I want you to write down everything you liked and what worked. And in the second column, I want you to write down what you didn't like and what didn't work. I want you to spend some time on this. And then I want you to think, what motivated you to eat better? What stopped you from eating well? What motivates you now? Just take some time and write it all down. When you're done writing, go back and reread everything. What stands out to you? The goal of this exercise is to help you understand where you've been and why you want to make a change. The first step to changing the way you eat is a shift in your mindset. Mindset is everything, and if you can find what motivates you, you'll be more successful. When I started doing keto in 2018, I jumped right in and gave up all the inflammatory foods. But that's also my personality and just how I'm wired. And at that time, I was ready for a change. I was sick and tired of feeling sluggish, exhausted, and bloated. I constantly had heartburn and my acne was really bad. And within a few weeks of going keto, I started to feel better and my skin started to clear up. I was motivated at that point, so I just kept going. And it did help that Clint was also eating keto because it was easy when we went out to dinner or had meals together. Eating well is simple, but it's not always easy. I hope today's episode gave you some useful tools you can start implementing in your life because now you know what foods you can eat to help improve your skin. Thank you for listening. Today we talked about what foods to eat and what foods to avoid for healthy skin. Please head over to our social media page and tell us what you want to learn more about. We want to create future episodes about what you want to learn more about. Be sure to tune in to episode 9. We are going to talk about stress and its effects on your body and skin. And always remember, you deserve to love the skin you're in.